Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Well, normally we do the historic meta breakdown for best of three. We look at untapped stats. Since the kind of nerf, there's not a lot of great stats accumulated. It's basically just showing wizards. And there's a lot of space to explore, so I kind of pulled together 3 deck lists that have done reasonably well, and just something outside of the norm. So, like, yeah, you can play artifacts, you can play wizards, you can play still like Rakdos or blue-white control. We've seen those decks. There's kind of an overlap deck, but this one is doing really well that we'll cover. But just want to give you some ideas of new kind of best of 3 decks. I'll do the best of 1 video and kind of go from there. And yeah, we'll just jump into it. And then hopefully by next week we have some more stats so I can give you more statistical approach. So this first deck here is a historic Goblin bombardment deck. This is from Kamal21 on Twitter. They got Mythic with this and they had a nice run. So it's built around the card Goblin Bombardment. So we saw a version of this when Bowmaster was around, but this version here is leveraging the Agatha Soul Cauldron Bloodghast Goblin Bombardment kind of package. And then we have things like Mayhem Devil in here as well. So Bombardment is basically a sack outlet that's non-conditional. You don't need to pay mana into it, whatever it is. Sack a damage, deal 1 damage to any target. This is really useful because early game you can pick off like elves, you can go to planeswalkers, face whatever is necessary. So 4 of the Goblin Bombardments in the deck. You also have Agatha Soul Cauldron, which gives your creatures from the graveyard the activated abilities of other creatures. So you could basically turn all your creatures into Priests of the Forgotten Gods or Bloodtithe Harvesters. It also makes your creatures larger, which then with the Callous Sellsword, you can burn together to throw them at your opponent. You have the Faithless Looting Unearth package, so you can kind of churn through your deck to find your copies of Mayhem Devil, bring them back. Same with Seasoned Pyromancer, you can bring back. Really what you want to do is throw these Bloodghast in the graveyard. Any sort of land coming into play brings them back. Works really nice with Priests of the Forgotten Gods, because you say you have 2 of these, you can sack them, they go into the graveyard, you play a land, they come back, and then you get that utility there. And then some Unlucky Witness for card advantage, and then Seasoned Pyromancer as well for Pyromancer. For like card advantage. Could see Fable potentially being in here as well, but like an interesting shell. The only thing I would probably say is I'd probably want to find like either the Eye Tyrant maybe, or just a creature land in here. You are playing the full 4 Fable, so it does require you to play some number of like basic lands in order to find it as well. In terms of the sideboard, you have Croxus for the grindier matchups. Hitazuku is good for like the more aggressive decks. Wizards can be reasonable. It both hits their early drops as well as takes care of the graveyard. Against the artifact decks, also super reasonable. And then it's a win condition on its own. The Ghost Quarter tech's pretty sweet. So 3 Ghost Quarters for the mono green matchup, just destroying like their Nykthos or any kind of key land. And then you can also target yourself, and while you go down a land, it is a way to get a land drop trigger to then hit the Bloodghast, which is an interesting kind of tech inclusion. You know, it's not always that you sideboard in lands, but interesting nonetheless. Then you just have Fatal Pushes, and then Rending Volleys as needed as removal, and then a Pithing Needle for activated abilities. So there's that deck there, the Historic Bombardment. Now, Oras has been a deck in some variation here and there. It was effectively shadow banned with Bowmaster. This one's coming back. So this list here, I just want to give credit. It was in my Discord. I'll pull it up. So I saw Miss Min playing against a player on the ladder, Ninja Kobe, who is number 3 or 4 Mythic with Oras. So basically towards the top of the ladder, top 10 with this deck. And it's really interesting because a lot of the lists aren't running Invisible Stalker main, and I think this card's incredible in this type of strategy. So no Shram. It's running like Light Paws still with Core Spirit Dancers, some copies of Invisible Stalker. This card's very difficult to get rid of from your opponent. You either need a sweeper effect, or you need a well-timed like Sheoldred's Edict or Liliana Minus. Otherwise, it just runs away with the game, both being unblockable and hexproof. Esper Sentinels back in glorious, thriving, doesn't get pinged by Bowmasters, as well as Giver of Ruins as protection spells. And then you're going to notice just a lot of 1-ofs. This deck is a mess to kind of parse through if you're just looking. So Cartouche is in here, gives you Vigilance, another creature, first strike. Creature with vigilance, first strike, 1/1. Ethereal armor scales, it's kind of your all that glitters, but for 1 mana. Gives a bunch of bonus as well as first strike. Glaring Aegis taps a creature, so you can get rid of a blocker. Griff's Bloom gives flying. Sentinel's Eye gives vigilance, and a card that you can cast again from the graveyard. Combat Research for card advantage. Fly to, well, fly. Slip out the back for protection. Kai's Ghost form. If your creature dies or gets exiled, comes back to the graveyard. Hammerhand. This gives your creature +1/1 in haste, so it could kind of be a combo turn where, you know, maybe the killer creature, you drop a like light pods, you throw an ethereal armor and Hammerhand on it, and then it goes crazy. Audacity for trample, another all that glitters, and then staggering insight for life gain as well as card advantage. So all interesting inclusions, leveraging the mana confluence to hit those other lands in the deck. Your sideboard, Fragment Reality is removal, slip out the back for protection, some pushes, vetoes as a counter spell, then you have Deafening Silence. So this can be used if like you run into Phoenix or even like mono green at times. You could shut off some of their multi-spell turns since they're non-creature spells. Notably, this does hurt you as well. So if you're trying to storm off, a lot of your cards are non-creatures, so keep that in mind. Pithing Needle for activated abilities, Soul Guide Lantern for graveyard hate, Containment Priest for like when things are trying to be cheated into play, and then Vaconia is a creature that can also attack your opponent's graveyard, which is nice. And then lastly, so we got Geowiiz as 22-9 and best of 3 with this. So Harmonic Prodigy is always played in a Shaman shell, but this is kind of a Wizard's Burned shell, which is cool in Gruul. So Harmonic Prodigy's a 2-mana 1/3 prowess, and then if an ability, a Shaman or Wizard you control triggers, its ability triggers an additional time. So you have Jarsoul, so its ability would trigger, so you get to cast a 1-drop or 1 mana spell. Then you can cast 2 mana spell that same turn, then a 3 mana spell and a 4 mana spell. So it just really accelerates your curve, which is really sweet. Gets you that value. A lot of burn in the deck. Play with fire, static discharges, some stomps, Witchstalker Frenzy. This can meet the condition of being a 4 CMC card, but it can be cast for as little as 1. Deals with Shieldred, stuff like that. Bloodbraid Elf, Minskin Boo on the top end. Then you have things like Samut for card advantage, Questing Druid for card advantage, Perleus Iteration also provides you some card advantage, and then the discard just fuels the Jarsoul anyways. A lot of things that care about like being cast multiple times with starting intensity. Dragon Rage Shaman, Chandler is a Shaman, so it's whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you Surveil, that triggers twice. So this is another way to get a nice evasive 3/1 flyer. Kind of all mixed into that. So sweet list here. Again, how many lands are in this deck? 22. I would like to see like 1 or 2 creature lands, I think, in here. Just given like the games will generally go grindy, I think it's pretty fair. Like easy to just throw in like 1 or 2 dens of the Bugbear. Sideboard, Blue-White Hate, Cast into Fire for like artifacts, and then just small things. Molten Impact, just as like 4 damage removal. You have 2 copies of the Giant Cindermaw here, so anti-life gain, which is interesting that they're opting to go with this, in part because if you do Roiling Vortex, you cast the cards for 0 mana with Jarsoul, so you take 5 damage, so something to consider there. And then some Witchstalker Frenzy, Chandra is all mixed in. I'm going to double check because it says there's only 14 cards in the sideboard. I just want to see if it's an import error or not. But really kind of cool list here. And then I did, let's discard changes. Let's see if I just fat fingered that. Nope, 14. Okay, so I'll check out with that sideboard, and if not, I'll make it proper. And then kind of just, where did it go? Another deck, like if you like the Shaman archetype, I think Shaman's in best of 1. I was playing this. You can now draw a bunch of cards again with Visionary, double stacks with Seasoned Pyromancer, Rage Forger gets extra triggers. Fable the Mirror Breaker makes Shaman tokens, so you get 2 treasure tokens from it, and then copying Rage Forger just puts a bunch of counters, gets you a bunch of triggers, which is all really sweet. Collected Company and Bloodbraid is providing you more card advantage as well. So I can link this one if you're interested as well. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you think, what you've been playing in Historic. The next metagame challenge or qualifier month is Historic, so we'll try to get some more content with that leading up to it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one. Stay safe.